people along. I'm really interested to go and have a look at some of the finishes. Would you be kind enough to come and show us?
Absolutely.
What is it? Okay. So we're going to go in and have a look at these different finishes we've been talking about. So where should we start? So presumably...
So that's your internal wall.
Yeah.
So there's two systems there. One is British gypsum, one is SWIP.
Okay. Okay, so these are different types.
So the one on the right-hand side is SWIP. The one on the left-hand side is British gypsum.
Got it. And explain that in English.
So basically the British gypsum has a metal frame.
Okay.
And then if you look on the side, there's insulation boards.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
And this one, you've got the wool going between insulated rafters, joists.
Okay.
So two different types of systems.
So
you can see it's come out almost 100 mil.
100 mil. And you speak about this 100 mil a lot. So is there options?
No.
No, but you could do thinner or wider?
No.
Okay.
No.
And I know you're saying no in terms of your standards, but are there standards that are not 100 mil or thinner?
So why we chose this system, because if a consumer wants warranties and guarantees, these systems have been approved by the insurers.
Okay.
There are products out there which are much thinner.
Yeah.
But they haven't yet been approved by any insurers to make sure that we can protect the customers.
And I know you can get thinner. So if somebody did do it thinner, other than the obvious, the thicker, the more insulated it's going to be, if they did do thinner, it's not hitting the regulations then. So it's
not hitting the thermal
adding
U value.
The value, this
Correct.
U value. So the U value, which is
0.3.
And so that's your overall objective with the property, to get it to 0.3.
Yeah, so when consumers are looking at products or systems, they'll have a data sheet, and on the data sheet it says, if you did my system this way, you'll achieve X U value.
Got it. Okay. And that will obviously enhance your EPC or not, and add the value or not.
Correct.
Okay, so there's, other than the obvious of a better retention of heat, there's the building reg standards of increasing your EPC or thermal value.
Correct.
Yeah, makes sense. And then we move up.
That's room in the roof.
Room and roof and loft.
So you can see there's the rafters. The black part is your underfelt before the tiles are put on.
Okay.
And then you can see the insulation board around, which shows that you've insulated the rafters at the top.
And you never see, this is a really cool way of doing it, because you never see that you, as a homeowner, although you see builders on sites and things, you see the finished article, you don't know what's behind.
What's behind it, and
so this is
really the purpose of this.
Yeah, so I can just say, okay, this is what's happening behind my wall and why it's achieving what it's achieving.
And not only that, it tells the customer how far out we're coming.
Yeah, yeah. So we're now coming out and looking at
external
obviously
wall.
Some external. So is this the mosaic you talked about?
This is a mosaic. This is what a type of finish you can have.
Yeah.
This is a brick slip.
Okay.
So it brings the character back from the home.
So that's a real brick.
It's a real brick, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's 15 mil in thickness.
So rather than a standard brick, you've got 15 mil the front of it effectively to
correct to give it that
real
look.
Brick finish.
So it brings the character back of the house.
Because again, I think when I've thought about this in the past, I think it's going to look a fake brick, or mosaic's going to be like pebble dash, and so. But this is really cool.
Yeah.
And presumably comes in different finishes.
Yeah,
colours.
I'll show you that right now.
And this is it's a brick.
And there's different types, options of brick slip.
Yeah.
Different colours. If you like sandy colours or dark colours or different red effects.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of choice. Yep.
Which again, I'm fortunate, mine's a fairly new build, so it doesn't need insulating. But if I did, and I've got a brick finish, as all the other homes are, if I'd rendered it, it would look at a character, so it keeps the character, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
One of the most important things, you'll see that this is actually a 100 mil insulation board.
Okay.
So it's come out 100 mil.
So my home would have been level with my door, my walls in the past, as the windows, and now it's this distance here is your 100 mil of what you've built. So presumably my window sills have had to be changed?
No, so if you are renovating your home and you're putting new double glazing in, we would advise the customers to tell the double glazing installer to put the sills at a certain width.
Okay.
So the insulation tucks nicely underneath, leaving this 40 mil, allowing for water to drip off and not damage the wall.
Makes sense.
If you have existing windows, so this is depicting like an existing windows, we've extended out, but we put it underneath.
Okay.
Simply because right underneath the new windows, there's weeps.
Got it.
You've got to allow that water to flow out.
So presumably, if I am doing external wall and my windows are single glaze, do the windows first.
Windows first.
Okay. Everything comes
We
off
would
of that.
recommend get your windows done first. We'll talk to the contractor to make sure the sill size is correct.
Yeah.
So the insulation tucks quite nicely.
And if you haven't, and for whatever reason you had to do it in reverse, it can still be done, but it's just not as easy.
Yeah, what you want to do is you want to do the double glazing first, because if you do the insulation first, there's a potential when they install this, it damages the actual insulation, and the fact is it might not give it a clean finish.
Yeah. And again, it's just computing that from a general owner of a property. First, windows, doors, insulate,
Loft.
solar, loft,
Yeah, so if you look up there,
roof, solar, heat pump. That's the order, right?
that's how your loft should look like.
Okay, so that's the 300
That's
you were talking
300.
about.
Yeah.
Where previously we were looking at
Yeah, and if you
150.
notice right underneath, if you step back
Yeah.
underneath,
Okay.
we've kind of put, so remember I said to you about storage?
Yeah.
So you put that, but you can see I'm not compromising the wool. I haven't condensed it.
Okay. So that's why you build the joists up.
Build the joist up, put the platform in. The most crucial part is not to squeeze that.
Not squeeze it and pack it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
right.
makes sense. A lot of options. You kind of
Absolutely.
think it's one size fits all, but it's really personalised.
It's personalized to the customer.
Yeah,
You know, customers have different tastes.
of course. And then I wanted to look at the. Oh, we missed any insulation in here?
Yeah,
No?
there's-
Okay, sorry.
So this is a flat roof.
Yeah.
This is flat roof insulation.
Okay.
So if you have a flat roof and it's done post 2000, you insulate it. It won't be insulated.
Got it.
So there's two options. This is the cold insulation.
Yeah.
You also can do a warm insulation, which you do on top. So you put the actual insulation on top. You take the felt off and you build it up.
I mean, this slightly off topic, but this really makes sense. This type of showing, because as I say, you never see what's behind, and to understand it, and that it's being done properly, and to regulations. So to be able to come in and, like I say, it's like going into a car showroom. You can choose your colour and your options and really personalise it.
So this is cavity. Remember we talked about cavity?
Yeah.
So there's two types of insulation here. One is a bead
Yeah.
and one is a wool.
Right. Okay.
So this is where it goes in between.
In between. So if I'm building a house now, that's what they're putting inside.
Yes,
Yeah. Between my bricks.
the insulation boards. And one thing I really wanted to show you is, remember the external wall insulation?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at this,
So
that's how it starts. So that's the insulation board. We pin it and glue behind.
Okay.
This is then a mesh is put in. This stops cracking.
Okay.
Then we put a base coat on top of that to hide the mesh. That's the primer. Once the primer is done, the customer chooses what finishing they want.
So, there's
So
five,
everything that I showed you on the finishing, that's this stage.
So there's 5 stages behind. what
Technically
you see.
almost 7.
Okay. And again, just remind me, I know you spoke, so when we're thinking then of insulation boards, etc., how does that fit in with fire regulations and things like that?
So between properties, we put fire barriers.
Yeah.
Where the gas flue comes out, we put a fire barrier.
Okay.
And if it goes above 18 meters, then you have to put fire barriers in.
Okay. And does that alter then when you go to a certain height, the material you have to use? Or
Yeah,
is
mineral wool.
mineral wool when you get to that stage, but not
Yeah.
below 18?
Yeah.
And round the windows, I know I've seen on site once or twice where they're cutting sort of at certain angles. Is that the fire regulation or the best, just how it best fits within
Best
the window?
fits, because sometimes if it's angled, let's say most common is here, is because the window opens and you want that window to open to its fullest, otherwise it restrains it.
And it's really funny when you're working with quality guys on site and asking them questions, how this is where you see, and I wanted to speak to you about the dangers of doing it wrong. So listen, that happens. There's always a rogue trader out there. So typically what are the mistakes? Because a lot of it's hidden, right? So what's happening wrongly that people are doing that is going to come back and bite you?
So the first thing that I've commonly seen is a lack of pins,
Yeah.
to make sure it's pinned to the wall and it's not going to fall off.
Yeah.
The second, what I've seen is
So just not enough pins.
not enough pins.
Got it.
And they're not spread out properly.
Right.
The other one is I see a lot of insulation which is 30 mil or 50 mil.
Okay.
And that's because one is cheaper for the contractor or whoever's doing it, and plus it's not being explained to the customer why they're doing it, and it's much more cheaper.
Of course.
So the homeowner thinks they're getting it cheaper, but they're not getting the full value of return on investment
Because of the thickness.
because of the thickness, and plus it's not meeting
It's not
building
meeting the
regs.
regs, so the EPC is not improving. It's not good. Okay.
Correct.
And it's really, I think it's a really important point because, especially with construction and high ticket prices, we see it a lot where really obvious to the eye where we'll look at it and you're going, if you're a competitor, if you're doing a really decent, proper job here, there's no way you could be doing it for that price. You couldn't buy it and labour it for that
No,
price.
the other
So
thing
we
that-
know they're cutting corners somewhere.
And the other thing they don't do correctly is the DPC level.
Okay.
So you should insulate to the DPC level and make sure even at the top where the loft meets insulation, there's no thermal bridging, because then it causes condensation issues. Now the most important when you do insulate your home, our old stock, they breathe because heat is exchanging through the brick. But once you insulate it, it's not breathing. So ventilation is crucial.
Yeah.
So, your extractor fans, your trickle vents, and how fresh air is still coming into the house, and making sure that stale air is also leaving.
Got it. And as you're mentioning that extras and outsides, etc., what about your old guttering and your fascia boards, and you might have lights hung up outside? Obviously that's all got to come off, waste pipes, everything.
So we
does that work?
would then ask the customer, as we're doing it, do you want to replace your guttering
Yeah.
or your downpipes? Where downpipes are absolutely really, really old, we would replace them.
Yeah.
Your soil pipe,
Yeah.
that's one thing that if it's cast iron, there's a lot of old homes have cast
Yeah,
iron, that's been replaced with UPVC.
Okay.
But we would always advise the customers, you're doing this to make your house also look nice, why don't you put brand new downpipes and guttering,
Which I guess in the big picture
a final
is
touch.
fairly insignificant in the price.
Correct.
New guttering, it's not that expensive, but
Yeah.
it really finishes it off. If to have the old one with the new wall,
absolutely
would be worth it.
It'll just look rubbish.
Yeah. And it is, I know, speaking to a guy the other day who'd had his property valued before and after, so obviously, as we said, the pricing of the property would increase because of the EPC efficiency, but everybody notices that house on the street now because it looks brand new in what is probably a 20 or 30 year old estate. So one, it stands out, and therefore you can demand, which is
Absolutely.
where you cover your investment day one. just lastly, and again, I know it sort of escapes in negotiations and talking. We always talk about the importance of getting really good advice and coming and seeing and whatever is so important, because it's such a significant investment. And if you get it wrong, huge consequences.
Yeah.
So things like insurances and warranties, talk to me a little bit about how that
So
works.
we as a company standardize, we give our customers 25-year insurance back guarantee,
25 year?
2 years to 25 years of workmanship.
Okay.
We do advise the customers that once we've done our work, don't start screwing things or putting flower baskets on, because then that compromises insurance.
Yeah.
But that's a standard for us.
Yeah.
We want to make sure the customer is protected.
And so in the unlikely event that you're on the beach in Dubai in 5 years, how does that 25 year then stack up?
Well, if we close down, the insurance back guarantee company will
So it's
step in.
covered whether the person who does it, regardless,
Absolutely.
as long as you've got the right, makes
And
sense.
as long as it's been installed correctly,
Yeah.
because then the insurance can't be issued.
And I know you issue, which is, I've kind of seen, but never to the regiment that I've seen elsewhere, of the project manager, the site project manager. So you're going to have different trades in and out. It's about timing. I always think of DIY SOS at that point where your house is invaded and you've got all these different people, and that project manager is so important to
Yeah, we have a project
life as
manager
normal.
to the dedicated customer to make sure the journey of the customer is smooth.
Okay.
And plus the customer has a point of contact.
Who do I go if somebody's late, or the van's
Correct.
not turned up, or I need to ask a question or rejig something?
Yeah,
I need one
absolutely.
point of contact rather than somebody else.
We would assign a project manager.
Project manager. And also little things I notice, and I think these are so key and you never think until it's happening, is you're still living in your property and there's quite hefty construction work going on.
Yep.
So whether that's scaffolding or materials or mess, what should a consumer expect from the deliverer in terms of tidiness, end of day, end of job?
All our boys are trained to make sure access, there's no obstruction, rubbish is taken away
Yeah.
and not left on site continuously. So we've constantly have people running around to the sites
Okay.
after our installers to make sure rubbish is taken away. Consumers feel that they can walk into the home without any obstruction.
Yeah.
But that's down to the project manager to make sure that's
And
absolutely
even
done.
outside toilets and the scaffolding.
Yeah, we do the welfare. We leave toilets because we don't want to encroach on customers, because they'll have dirt. You know, 100% we would do that.
And I know as well a lot of the time that as somebody who works from home, quite often if stuff is going on, it can be your working environment as well. So I know you always sort of say if the person working from home is on a private call or whatever, or just needs you to down tools for 10 minutes, it's important we do that where possible, because somebody is in there trying
Absolutely.
to do their work, you know?
Yep.
So those are little small extras, as I say, you don't think of until it's happening, and then you go, oh, okay.
It's how the on-site installers also communicate with the customer,
Yeah.
because they're there every day. And on top of that, how the project manager makes sure that we don't disrupt
Yeah.
the homeowner at any point in time, really.
Yeah, minimal. And last point on that, and I saw this the other day when going to look at a property, and all the driveway and even the front end of the garden, you'd laid and taped down.
We lay DBDs.
Because you don't think of that. You think dirty builders are going to be the cement and all these things, and then they're off.
A lot of homeowners have spent a lot of money on their driveways.
Yeah.
You don't want to damage that.
So that's all covered. And maintained.
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, that's a real education and insight, and I think it really expresses the value of, as we always say, big investments as big rewards, but also heavy consequences. And so it's
got to be done right.
It's got to be done right. And sometimes you may pay a little bit more for that, but the long term, this is a long term, 20, 30 year thing that's going to last. So, you know, £1,000 here and there for the right people and the right project is critical. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.